Okay, so first up, we're going to install Anaconda. So like I said before, one of the things I want to do with this is to have everybody exactly software-wise the same. Now, if you consider yourself to be considerably advanced, then it's not super important. But the thing is that if anybody has problems along the way, I want to be able to help you solve those problems. And if you're not using the same stuff, I may not be able to help you. Especially because when we start installing weird, difficult packages to work with, like OpenCV, which is Python wrapped C++, some things can get tricky. So the order of things, the order we'll do things in is very important. If for whatever reason you absolutely just don't want to install Anaconda or anything like that, that's okay. But just know that I may not be able to help you or whatever after that. So the first thing we're going to do actually today is going to be kind of hands-on. So the first thing we're going to do is actually we're all going to go and install Anaconda. So if you guys see these links here on the screen, can you see those? And I shared this PowerPoint in the Slack. It's the software installation file. So if you guys would turn your video on for me so I can see everybody. Unless you're like afraid because you look really bad today or something. So I have a confession. I had to like give myself a haircut because it's like, you know, there's quarantine, so I couldn't go get a haircut before we all started. And like, I went to get my like clipping shears or whatever, and my kids had hidden them or something. So, okay. So who already has Anaconda installed?
I do.
Me?
I do as well.
Me.
Okay, good. Now I'm working on a Mac. I know a lot of you guys are working on Windows machines. There's going to be some differences along the way. I've done my best to accommodate for both parties, but that may not always be the case. So if you see something, feel free to point it out that looks considerably different on your Windows machine or Linux machine. Point that out to me so I can try to update the instructions and stuff. So the first thing we're going to do, if you don't already have Anaconda installed, is we're going to go to one of these links. All right, so I want you guys to go there, and then we're going to go through the installation steps. Which are here. This is the Windows installation. So this is a pretty nice instructional. It's pretty straightforward. The only drawback of Anaconda is that it's pretty big. So you can see here, like this will take up 463 megabytes on your computer. So does anybody not have that space available?
The PowerPoint, I'm just letting you know.
You're absolutely right. Thank you very much. Can you still see the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So let me change my sharing. Okay, can you see my browser now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. So, so does anybody not have the 463 megabytes this is going to require? Okay, so this is a pretty big download. So everything we'll do after this is kind of predicated on this installation. In hindsight, I probably should have asked you to do it yesterday, but so let's go ahead and get started. If you guys would just kind of give me some ballpark times on how long it's going to take. What does your machine say?
Oh,
6 minutes.
6 minutes.
This is, I was doing it while the other presentation was going on. It's pretty intensive, so like Zoom crashed on me.
Okay.
So it'll be hard to do it, like communicate while this is going on.
Well, it's good. That's good to know. So, how should we proceed? So
we
let
could
me,
use Slack, message through there if Zoom is like being glitchy on us.
yeah, Zoom does have a tendency because, like, for example, when I exit out of a meeting, it has to convert the Zoom from a proprietary format to an MP4, and it's running on my machine right now. It's converting, and like my fans are running. So what we may do then, let me take a look at the schedule real quick. So we have the software installation here, which all considering it will probably take just maybe like 30 minutes or so to walk through. The download's probably the most extensive part. Dr. Lobo said he's only going to lecture for an hour here, so I'll have 30 minutes of that. And then, So
I
let's
have
do
like
this.
multiple options for the Mac download. Which one do I choose?
So what are you looking at? Can you tell me what it says?
For Anaconda, it says Mac OS, and then there's the 64-bit, and then it was like Python 3.7, Python 2.7. Do I go with the 3.7?
Yeah, definitely the 3.7. So that's a good question.
Okay.
So I'll walk through the presentation, and then what I'm going to have you guys do is tonight, if you would, go through the presentation and make sure, I'll go through it kind of a high-level instructional level, and then if you guys would go through stepwise tonight, make sure you can do all the steps, okay? So, okay, so Anaconda, you're going to install this. Basically, we're going to install Anaconda, and then we're going to use PyCharm to work with the Anaconda. As Audrey just asked, I definitely recommend like 3.6 or higher for your Python. Nobody's really using 2 anymore, so it's not really worth doing that. So when you go through the installation of Anaconda, I strongly recommend that you just do most of the recommended stuff. So on that previous page I was just on, I have those links there. If you look at the links, there's pretty good tutorials around there on how to install all the stuff. If you have any questions, I would definitely recommend checking those out. Because if you, for example, add to your path and you shouldn't have, sometimes those problems can be a real pain in the butt to fix, because a lot of the stuff we're going to install down the line is all dependent on Anaconda. So you don't want to have to go backwards and then correct all of that stuff. So my recommendation is to use the recommended settings when you go through all of the Anaconda stuff. So we'll pick up here probably a little bit tomorrow morning, but once you have Anaconda installed, our first goal will be to create a virtual environment with Anaconda. So basically the virtual environment is going to kind of partition in a way part of your machine so that it doesn't interact with all the other things in your machine. So for example, if you're using a Mac, that Mac comes standard with Python 2. Those are pre-installed when you purchase the Mac. So you don't really want all of those things intermingling with the Pythons that you'll be installing, or if you try to uninstall Python 2 on your machine, you would experience problems if it was the default one that was installed. So what we're going to do is we're going to create this virtual environment. We're going to do all of our work inside of there. And then once we move to the GPU clusters, you'll also be able to create Anaconda virtual environments there as well. So it's another reason why we're going to use Anaconda, because when we start working on the GPU cluster called Newton, you'll also be able to use Anaconda there. So in order to create your Conda environment, for Mac users, you'll follow this instruction exactly. You're just gonna, so you're gonna do conda create. This tag is for your environment name, and we want Python. You can do 3.7, for example, if you do install the Anaconda version, 3.7, that's fine. And then to activate your environment, you're gonna type source, activate, and whatever your environment name was. And then once you've done that, you're inside. So on some machines, you'll be able to use conda activate your environment name. Typically, I use this first one here, source activate. And then in order to leave that environment, you'll just say deactivate your environment name. So for Windows users, you won't be able to use the command prompt. If I'm not mistaken, you can use something called MOBA Xterm, which I have not mentioned here, but I can say in the chat what the name is. I haven't used it personally, MOBA Xterm. Has anybody used MOBA Xterm here?
Slightly, a few times.
So basically, it's the way I understand it is just a shell for Windows.
Yeah, you could do Windows subsystem for Linux too. It would work similarly.
Okay, good. That's good to know. So I haven't used a Windows machine in probably 10 years, so
Yeah.
maybe more. So you guys might have to kind of keep me up to date on what's going on there. But for our Windows users, what's going to happen when you install Anaconda, it will also include a GUI, which is called the Anaconda Prompt. And inside of the Anaconda Prompt, you can do a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about here. So you can see it's virtually the exact same thing. Conda, create, blah, blah, blah. Now, you will notice that these two are different. So make sure you notice that. So if you'll notice here at the end, I've written Anaconda. So when you write Anaconda at the end of your environment creation, what's going to happen is it's going to install all of the standard Anaconda packages that you installed with Anaconda. So consider this in opposition to if you didn't write Anaconda there, then you would simply be, let me see if I have a cursor here. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you didn't write this here, then what would happen is you'd basically create a virtual environment with nothing inside of it. I mean, it would have Python because Anaconda is a Python package manager, but it wouldn't have all of the other things that would come standard in a full-fledged Anaconda virtual environment like NumPy or stuff like that. So once you have, go ahead. Was there a question? Okay. So once you've created the environment, and you've activated the environment, inside of there we can start to install packages. So in order to see the packages that you have installed, all you have to do is type inside of the environment, type conda list, and it will give you a list of everything that is installed inside of that environment. So that's useful to see, like for example, have I installed Tensorflow yet? I don't know. So by typing conda list, that will let you see all the stuff that's already installed. So since the first thing we're going to be doing is in Keras, which is a high-level API for Tensorflow, a couple of packages that we want to install inside of our environment are Tensorflow and Keras. So the first one you have to install is Tensorflow because that's the backend for Keras. So I'm going to assume that most of you probably don't have GPUs on your machine. Does anybody have a GPU on their machine?
Mine does.
Yeah.
Mine does, yeah.
So if you wish to utilize the GPU support on your machine, there's going to be a separate installation for Tensorflow. It looks like this one. Versus those CPU users, like on my machine, I just would type conda install Tensorflow. Now, one thing I do want to say is I wrote this probably last year for when I taught Dr. Lobo's robotics class. So I would recommend always, before you install anything in Anaconda, all you have to do is just type into Google conda install and whatever the package you're interested in is, just look that up. So for example, let's just double check something right now. So let's do conda install Tensorflow. So this is not the one I wanted. Usually you'll see, okay, you see these two little dots? That's usually the one I'm looking for. Now, if it's a complicated package, it may not be as straightforward as this, but so here you can see, here's the instruction, conda install -c Anaconda Tensorflow. Now, when you write -c with Anaconda, that means the channel that it's coming from, which you don't have to worry a whole lot about, but basically that means like where is the project maintained, kind of. So now if you wanted a little bit more on the tutorial side, like, well, I didn't feel like that was exactly what I wanted, or you didn't see the GPU version, you can either check some other links or you can just expand your Google search a little bit. So here you can see, again, Conda install -C, Anaconda, TensorFlow -GPU. So that's the whole thing I had here. Now, you don't really typically have to type -C Anaconda because the channels come oriented or prioritized by default, where Anaconda, the channel Anaconda, is where most of the packages are going to come from, is prioritized as #1. So it's assumed that's by default, the channel is Anaconda. So that's why I don't have it written here. But if you do write it, it's not going to hurt anything. And then once you have TensorFlow installed, then you're going to want to move on to Keras, and you can get that installed. And these may take a little bit, especially TensorFlow, it's a little bit bigger, but you shouldn't have any problems with the installation, okay? Questions? Okay. All right, so now once you're in, okay, so Anaconda, like I said before, is a package manager for Python. So what that means is basically you have all these packages, these libraries that you're going to be using inside of your code. So for example, if you look at the end of this assignment, I said you had to add in the statement import NumPy as NP. So NumPy is a package, it's a library, and we're going to want to import that into our code. So Anaconda is going to provide us a place where we can download all of that stuff into our virtual environment, as opposed to pip, which can still, pip stands for package that installs packages. So pip is similar to Anaconda in many ways, except for the fact that it doesn't offer the additional functionality like virtual environments, stuff like that. But when you're inside of Anaconda, you have pip. So Anaconda itself is kind of like the superset for pip. So when you're inside of Anaconda, you can use pip, and you can use pip to install stuff. So for example, if you find that you typed into Google and you said, I want to download package XYZ. So you go to Google and you type in Conda install XYZ, and you can't seem to find it anywhere. Maybe you end up on Stack Overflow and you're looking at some instructions, and it may say, just use pip, like this here, pip install XYZ. So a lot of the times it will make it a lot easier if you can't seem to get it from Anaconda. Okay, any questions about that? Okay. So, hold on one second.
Well, I got some warnings and errors with installing Keras.
Uh-huh.
Said, did not find VS in registry or VS 140.
Got that too.
So are you guys
Me also.
I think that's just related to Visual Studio. Would that affect PyCharm?
It's very possible.
Hmm.
So did you create the virtual environment first?
Yeah, I did. I was looking it up online. There isn't like a very unified solution to this.
There's not, which is precisely why I've tried to be as explicit as possible, because I spent so many hours fumbling around trying to find out. And so I had to piece together lots of things. So this is a lot of experience here. Now, are you on a Windows machine?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's try this. So I heard 2 other people say they had that error. Do you guys also have Visual Studio installed?
Yes.
I do not have it installed, which is why I was kind of confused why it was showing up in the. It's something that needs to
Did
be
you
installed.
ever have it installed?
Okay, so 2 of you have it installed and 1 of you does not. Is that it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're all using virtual environments with Anaconda.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And you all installed TensorFlow first?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So did you type in the channel, which the channel's different for Keras? It's SourceForge or CondaForge? Sorry.
Yeah, I did that as well.
You did that. Okay. Let's debug. So let's try. So for example, like I said, I did this last year. So maybe we need to update the Keras installation. So let's try. Are you guys on Windows machines?
Yes.
Yes.
So it looks like the instructions are still the same. So what did the error say for you guys?
The error says the system was unable to find the specified registry key or value, and then it links to a file from for Visual Studio and then 14.0. And then there's a warning that says can't find the VS in the registry or in VS 140 COM tools.
Okay, I'm looking it up right now. Let's see.
I could just copy paste it in the
That would be awesome. So Anaconda insulation, here we go. God, you gotta love Stack Overflow. So let's see what we can come up with.
And then this is the full error.
Okay, so how I managed to solve this in Windows, let's take a look. Oh man, solution for Windows and Linux. Wow, this guy's the best. All right, so why don't we try this real quick. So set option to view hidden files. So on your Windows machines, I know on Mac it's Shift Command period for the shortcut, but can you guys enable viewing hidden files?
I don't have that folder. How old is this?
Let's see. This was this year.
Oh, yeah, I don't have an Anaconda folder in program data.
It's under users for me.
Yeah.
I have to go to
Oh,
users then.
that
yeah,
one?
usually it's
Okay.
under your user directory. I don't know why. Maybe that's like a system install of Anaconda versus a normal user install.
It's very possible.
Oh, maybe because you could do an individual install versus a computer install.
Yep,
That's-
exactly.
That's most likely it, yeah.
So then,
So you go to environment and then whatever your environment name was. You didn't put spaces anywhere. Are there any spaces in your directories?
no.
No, okay.
Environments, TensorFlow.
Matthew, can you share your screen with us? I think I have multiple participants on.
Yeah, I should be able to.
I'm going to pause my share, okay? So since I paused my share, what do you guys see right now? Awesome. Good, so let's see.
Yeah, this is just what it has.
Okay, so environment, and then you're looking for,
I found mine and I deleted it. Should I just do it again in the prompt and see if it doesn't give me the error?
yeah,
Okay.
I don't think you should have to reboot. So you're looking for so your name was,
Yeah, that's just the UCF one.
okay, and then look for the etc. So go in there, etc.
Oh, here.
And then conda, activate, delete batch file name
So
VS20.
this worked for me.
It worked? Nice. That's great.
Yeah.
So this?
For me, there's still some
Yeah, you just
thing
did-
that looks somewhat unexpected that it's printing at the end.
Warnings or errors? Can't hear you to make your muted.
I don't think it's either of them, but it's I don't know, when you install other packages, it doesn't say. It's a little bit of code looking stuff.
Okay, so why don't you, so let's make sure Matthew's works, and then I want to look at yours to see what it looks like. Wow, I feel like this is a first for me. I'm witnessing this Windows machine here. I feel honored. Wow, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, this takes a while.
So all I want to say is, can you guys imagine, if I hadn't have found this Stack Overflow, how long? I mean, how did this person even figure that out? Some of these errors can be so brutal, which is exactly why using virtual environments, because you minimize so many of these kind of errors when you use virtual environments.
Yeah, because I was looking this error up
Yeah.
and looking on a GitHub page, and everyone basically had a different solution. And for this.
All right, so I'm gonna assume that yours is gonna work because Jenna's works. So why don't you stop your screen share and
Yeah.
look to me? Can we look at yours to see what happened?
Yeah, sure. I realized that I might have that maybe it was caused by me not removing Keras. Like maybe that will fix it, but yeah.
Looks like Zoom is not letting me like do anything, so I'm gonna have to quit out and jump back in.
Wait. Oh, okay. Yeah. Man down. All right. Let's see.
Can you guys see?
Yeah. So where was your error? Weird. If error level 1 set Keras backend. Oh, okay. So there's this JSON file that comes with Keras, and inside of the JSON file, let me see if I can find it. I want to show you guys what it looks like.
It's like not an error.
It shouldn't be an error. So I'll explain that in just a minute. So I'm going to assume yours is going to work as well. Can you stop your share? I'm going to restart mine here. All right, so what we're going to do, so you can even see here, you see how I have this package here, it says Theano. So it's here somewhere, I'm just missing it. Does anybody see it? Oh my God, it's right here. Okay. And then let's look for the, let's try it. No. Hmm. All right, let's see. It should be in here. There we go. Okay, so this is the JSON file here. Yes, good. Okay, so when you install, sorry, it's really small. So when you install Keras, it comes with this JSON file, which basically is going to tell it some stuff up here, but the important one is this backend. And what it means by backend is because Keras is like a wrapper for TensorFlow, it has to know that it should be using TensorFlow. However, there are other backends available, one of which is called, the main one being Theano. So for, like in that code that you shared with us, to me, it said if there was an error, switch the backend to Theano. So what that means is basically if it didn't work, the installation didn't work with TensorFlow, then use Theano. Try Theano instead. So is everybody good with that? So for example, in the event that you ever do have to change this backend, which can happen sometimes, you can find the file there, or I can just tell you later. That'll probably be easier. So for our 3 people, did it work for you guys?
Yeah, it seemed like that fixed it.
That fixed it? Okay, great. So once you have that installed, let's see here. Okay, so once you have that installed, the next thing we want to install is PyCharm. And again, I know that Zoom is probably killing your processor, so just do this tonight if you have to. It's no problem. The takeaway from this is that, first of all, PyCharm is a very nice editor by JetBrains, and they also offer tons of other awesome, JetBrains, IntelliJ. And they offer tons of other awesome products. So if you ever want to check out their website, a lot of nice stuff. They have C-Line for C and C++. But the point is so you can use this link here. It's an installation from via Anaconda. So it will kind of set it up so it's more Anaconda friendly, so they can interact out of the box. Also, before you install, you can use your school email at .edu, and you'll get the professional edition for 4 years, and you have to renew it once every year. So I think mine actually expires today. So let's see, it's really good. I mean, especially if you're a new user that doesn't write any Python, or you're not super great, it's really nice because it'll show you, it'll highlight errors and stuff for you. So we installed Anaconda first, and now we have PyCharm on top of that. Now inside of PyCharm, let's see if I can open something up here. So we're going to create a file here inside of PyCharm once you have it installed. Let's call it Hello World. So I guess I should have done this first. So what you'll do instead is you'll create new project here. And then when you go to do that, in the slides, you'll see, we'll go through this instruction in a minute, okay? So pretend you've gone through all of those things and you're here. So inside of PyCharm, you can actually, so let's say, for example, we wrote import XYZ, which is a package I definitely do not have installed. So if you'll notice down here in the bottom right corner, it's updating all of the packages and stuff that are included for my PyCharm distribution, which includes the stuff that comes with Anaconda. But the point is that once this is done processing, which could take a couple minutes, you can actually click on this package, right-click on this package, and it will allow you to install packages inside of PyCharm. But from tons and tons of hours of experience messing around with this stuff, don't do it. It's not a good idea. Excuse me. So my recommendation to you instead is to what we're going to do is all of that stuff from the command line. So for example, remember how inside of your shell, we create an environment, and then you could do conda activate, source activate your environment name. So what you would want to do is you want to go inside and you want to install packages the same way we did with TensorFlow and Keras. That way it's going to, Anaconda will sort the installation out, and it will also take care of dependencies with other packages, where sometimes PyCharm's not as good with that stuff. So you want to let Anaconda do what it's good at, and that's installing packages. And then PyCharm will import everything that Anaconda says it has available for it. Is that clear for everybody? So I would highly recommend that you do not install packages from PyCharm. So when you go to create a new project, so the first thing you're going to do is new project, and you're going to select existing interpreter. So you can see over here, location. So what do you want to call your file? Call it my project, hello world, whatever. And then you're going to have a drop-down menu. For Windows users, it may be a little bit different, but you have to select the editor that you want to use. So you don't want to click a new environment because we've already created one. But what we want to do is we want to import the environment that we just created inside of the shell. So you're going to go down here to existing interpreter and then click on this little menu button. Once you've done that, you can come over here, click on Conda environment, and you're going to see, since it's your first time using PyCharm, there's not going to be anything available here. But make it available to all projects because this will kind of be a standard default virtual environment that you'll use for most of your stuff. And then click on the menu option over there. So now here's where it definitely gets different for Windows users than it does for Mac users. And for those of you who use Windows machines, if you would, screenshot the process for me. Like you can see how I've done it on a Mac. That would be awesome. So I can include the Windows instructions. But the point is that what you're going to do is you're going to go into, you're going to get this little window that will pop up. And inside of this window, you want to search for Anaconda 3. Inside of that, you want environments, just like we were in with Matthew a moment ago. And inside of the environments, you want to look for the environment that you just created. So for example, mine's called capital P Python 3.6. And so inside of there, you're going to look for that environment. So you can see here, I have Annotation GUI and Beaver Dam. Those are two of my environments. And then once you're inside of that environment, here's the important part. So you're going to see this. So this path right here is super important. Anaconda 3, environments, your environment name, whatever it is. You want to go to bin, and then you want to go to Python. Now, for Windows users, this is where, like I said, it may be different, and screenshots would be appreciated, but you're going to be looking for something like this. Python, Python 3, Python executable, or something along those lines. So is anybody currently, or did they just get PyCharm downloaded? Did that work for anybody yet?
Yeah, I actually
Yeah.
installed it and stuff, and I'm at this stage, and I can't actually find any further folders inside the bind folder.
Perfect.
It looks like it's empty.
On Windows, it's just in the environments tab. So if you just
Okay.
down in environments, there'll be a python.exe.
Why don't you share your screen with us and we can take a look at it, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave my screen share on because I want to see what happens when when two people share.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
oh my bad, it's in your username. So environments, username, and then there's a Python exe. So when you link it, they'll link to that.
Is MA and then all the numbers the name of your environment?
Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
environment name. And then you'll find the Python exe, and everything works.
Perfect. Good. Now you'll see, if you look at Matthew's screen right now, you'll see on the right-hand column of that little window, you'll see a green, it's a snake, but it's a green circle. And so let's see here.
My bad, do you want me to keep sharing?
No, that's okay. I got one too. So can you guys see my screen?
No.
No.
Yeah, I think you have to read.
Yeah, try to click. Okay, here we go. Okay. Okay, so is everybody pretty clear on what that happened? So I screenshotted that, and if anybody else can screenshot the steps, that would be awesome. Send them to me. But I would hope you got the name. The point is once you've done that, then that environment that you created in Anaconda is now imported into or being taken advantage of inside of PyCharm. So once you've done that, the next thing you'll want to do is you'll want to create a new file inside of your project. So you're going to go to your project name, which is in my case, Hello World, new Python file. Okay. So like I said, if you look down here in the note that I have over here, if you haven't opened PyCharm in a while, or if it's new, sometimes it will have to update all the dependencies and stuff. So you might want to just give that a second. And then once you have your your new Python file available, just write something in there, for example, print single quotes hello world. And this may be your first Python file, I doubt it, but once you have written something that you want to execute or you want to run, right click inside of this window and click run hello world. So the first time that you ever run code on PyCharm, a code, so if you look over here, you see this little green arrow right here, the little run arrow? So that run arrow won't be green, it won't be available the first time you want to run your code. So, excuse me. So the first time you run your code, go here, run hello world, and then every time after that, you'll notice something pops up in this little window here, which I'll show you I have over here. So you can see mine's green, but the first time you go to do it, right click, you guys can see the PyCharm. Can you guys see this PyCharm window here?
Yes.
Good, good, good. Yeah, so run hello world, blah, 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 you'll do all that. Now, so something that's, I don't think I have in the notes, it's really helpful. So let's say we have just, so for, let's say like 10,000 or something. I think it's 10E6. Do nothing, okay? But let's say on the, okay, just print over there. You made it. Oh my God, my computer's lagging so hard. You made it, you filthy animal. Okay. All right, so here's the point. So if you come up here and you see next to this run button, you also see this debugger. So Python has a native debugger, PDB, but I mean, it's command line kind of stuff. So to leverage that inside of the editor, you have the debugger here. So let's say, for example, I put a debug dot here. So if I was to run this code, it will run the code until it gets to this line. So actually, let's, instead of pass, let's do print I equals, okay? So let's try debugging this and see what happens. So if you debug it, it will run the code all the way up to this red dot. So in other words, at this point, at the red dot, I should be equal to 500, right? Is everybody with me here? Not super complicated Python syntax. So you have I equals 500 here, which means we ran it that many iterations and then we got to the 500. So this debugger is super nice because if your code doesn't work, then you can stop it at certain places, let it run all the way through the other stuff, and then you can inspect those elements there. So for example, at this point, you could say evaluate expression. So you can say evaluate expression, which in this case, you can just look down here, it's I, but does I equal 500? It's true. So that's a true statement. Or let's say you want to evaluate I itself. So let's try that. I is 500. So if you had a lot of variables here, sometimes they don't pop up in here, or they may be buried in several layers of other stuff. So the moral of this story is that the debugger is very nice to kind of work your way through all that other stuff. If you don't want to go all the way through the other stuff, you can just simply hit the stop button, okay? So let's see what's next. So, so that's your first quote unquote Python file. So now, so what you'll do after that, so inside of PyCharm, you can actually, you can clone GitHub repositories. So the first thing I'm going to have you do inside of PyCharm after your Hello World assignment is I'm going to have you import the MNIST assignment that I gave you guys that PDF for into, so let's see, I have it here somewhere. Here you go. So on GitHub, I have the MNIST assignment here, right? So if you guys looked at that PDF, you're going to see the exact same PDF-ish. It's in Markdown, but you're going to see it here. So it's the exact same stuff that you already read about. And so what I'm going to have you do first is you're going to install, or excuse me, you're going to go to GitHub. That's the hyperlink here, or you can go down here and get the link. And you're going to come over here to this green button. You're going to hit clone or download. And the point is that you want to copy the URL for this repository. So you'll copy that URL, and then you'll open PyCharm again. It's inside of PyCharm, in your file edit menu bar, you should have something that says VCS, version control system. And down in the VCS menu, you're going to be looking for something that says something like checkout from version control, or it could also say get from version control. But the point is once you're inside of there, you want to click on get. And once you've clicked on the get, then it's going to pop up with a little window like this. And inside of this this little thing here, you're going to paste the repository that you just copied. Now, I'm already signed in on my machine, so I can't remember because it's been a long time. But GitHub may have you sign in. I can't remember. But you can test the link here to see if it's a valid repository. And then you can clone it. And so what that's going to allow you to do is it's going to create a whole new project for you, and it's going to be called whatever the repository's name was, in this case, assignment 0. And so you can click clone, you'll have this whole new project for you. So let's try that now. So we want to go to, so let's try this. I copy the link, go into PyCharm. So let me ask you, Windows users, inside of PyCharm, do you have the VCS option?
Yeah.
Yes, excellent, okay. So you're gonna go to VCS, check out from version control, get, just like I showed you a second ago. You're going to put the link here and test it. Connection successful, which means it's available. And then I'm gonna have to change the directory name because mine already exists. So let's just call it 1, okay? And so then it will clone that for you. My machine's running really slow right now because everything's on here, but it should open that in a new window for you, okay? And you'll have all that stuff available. So let's see, so next, so once you've done that, you can try running the code inside of, I don't even think I put the code in there. I think it's just a Python notebook. But anyways, the point is that you'll now have cloned a repository into your PyCharm. So for all your future stuff, you can do it that way, okay? Let's see. So up next, did anybody have a question? So see here, this is what pop-up that just came. It said check out from version control. So I hit no, because I don't want to. So next up are Jupyter notebooks. So if you guys looked at the assignment 0 for the MNIST classification, inside of that I used Google Colab notebooks, which I'll go over in a second. But when you installed Anaconda, you also got this thing called a Jupyter notebook. And Jupyter notebooks are really cool because they're good for testing stuff. So let's say you just want to say, I can't remember what the syntax for list slicing is. How do I check it? So inside of a Jupyter notebook, you can just test one little line of code at a time. So remember how in the debugger, you could run a bunch of lines and then stop at a certain line? Well, in Jupyter notebook, you can run one line at a time. So in order to access a Jupyter notebook, what you're going to do is you're going to open your terminal or your prompts, and you're going to navigate to the directory that has the Python notebook inside of it that you're interested in. So you just clone that repository inside of PyCharm. So the next thing you'll want to do is So what we're going to do is we're going to navigate into the directory where you just cloned that repository. So it's most likely going to be inside of PyCharm projects. And then you can just, of course, list what's inside of here. I don't know how many of you have any Linux experience. I know when I started, I didn't even know what CD was, so change directory. And then I pressed lists. List will show you all of the files, non-hidden files inside of the directory. And inside of that directory, you will have this Python notebook here. So it's the MNIST Keras IPyNB, okay? So once you've navigated into this directory, all you have to do is hit Jupyter, and then notebook. I can't remember if there's an S or not. Probably not, no S. So you see how this all pops up here. Typically, if you're not on screen sharing, it will automatically redirect you. But if it doesn't, you can copy this URL into a browser, and it's going to open up a local browser window for you. And so this is what it will look like inside of Chrome. So you can see these are the same files that we just saw inside of that when I listed those inside of the directory. So here, you're going to have the IPython notebook, which is right here. Okay, so we're going to click on that. However, what you could do is if you wanted to create a new Python notebook inside of this directory, you could just come over here, new, and then select what kind of format you want to use. So we'll use Python 3. And then so here you can click on this Python notebook and you'll see that opens up like this. And so this is what I meant by cells. So in the event that you've never seen a Python notebook, a Jupyter notebook, or you can look at it in this assignment, you can run one cell at a time. So by pressing Shift Enter, that's the short command, on a Mac at least, you can run single. So you can see here, module not found. Well, the reason the module's not found is because I'm not inside of my virtual environment. So this kind of takes us back to the other places that in order to execute all that stuff that you just downloaded or to take advantage of all the stuff you just downloaded, you have to be inside of that virtual environment. So I would have to go back to my, my shell and my terminal and activate that environment. Is everybody good with this?
Yep.
Okay, good. And then the last thing, which you probably won't need, but just so you know about it in case anybody ever says anything about it, it's called Google Colab. And Google Colab basically is the same thing as Jupyter Notebooks. The only difference is that it's hosted remotely by Google, and you don't have to worry about package dependencies or environments, any of that stuff. So for example, if I took that same code, and let's just try opening up a Colab notebook and see what happens. So let me copy all this stuff here and see what happens. So Colab. New notebook. But you can see you can also check them out from GitHub and stuff like that. Okay, so here, let's just give this a shot and see what happens. So the code I just put in into the Jupyter notebook where I didn't have my virtual environment activated. Let's try running that here. So see what happens. It may take a second. See, automatically. Now, like I said, this is happening remotely. It's not happening with any relation to my machine. So the super nice thing about Colab notebooks is like if you have to test some code or whatever the point may be, if you can't seem to manage your dependencies very well, you can just use Google Colab. It'll take care of that stuff for you. Another super nice thing is that they have free GPUs and even TPUs, which I haven't used. They're not always the newest or the best GPUs, but they're definitely better than a CPU. So that's a nice thing about Google Colab. So
I will say with, at least with Google Colab, if you need to like train your neural network for like 24 hours, don't do that on Colab because it wipes out everything after 24 hours.
Yeah.
So if you're expecting it to train for a week, don't do Colab.
Yeah, or you can set up something like where you save your matrix weights, and then, so after, for example, when we talk more about deep learning, like you can save after each epoch and then resume training or something like that. But you're absolutely right. It's because, for example, one of the most frustrating things can be when you've been training for hours and hours and then you lose a connection or something. So like, for example, when I first started the CRCV, one of the first codes I trained was going to take a couple days. So I left my computer in the lab overnight, but I hadn't changed the setting on my machine to not go to sleep when plugged in. So I left thinking, oh, this is going to be successful. I have a meeting with Dr. Shaw in a couple days. He's going to ask for results. And I was really depending on my stuff coming through in a couple days, but I wasted 24 hours because my computer went to sleep, lost connection to a GPU cluster, had to start over again. So awesome point. Other questions?